Good evening. This is Tuesday, March 25th, 2025, meeting of the Town of Berlin Planning Board. As a preliminary matter, please note this meeting is being recorded and that some of the attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you. That ugly band t-shirt you decided to wear tonight or anything you intend to or not, screen share on your computer will be captured and recorded forever and ever. This is Tom Sanford, Chairman of the Planning Board. Permit me to confirm that members of the Planning Board are present and can hear me prior to me calling the meeting to order. Planning Board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jay Teach.
Here.
Timothy Wheeler.
Here.
Carolyn McDonald.
Here.
Thomas Andrews.
Thomas Andrews here. I'm having an unstable connection here. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay,
I thought
good.
it was a senior moment.
No.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's an unstable connection to what?
Reality.
With a quorum of the board present, I call this meeting to order at 7:35 p.m. Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. This is an open meeting of the planning board being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public can be found on the Town of Berlin website. The governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location and allows and encourages us to participate remotely. For this meeting, the planning board is convening using the Zoom platform as posted on the agenda, which includes links for the public to join this meeting. I'll introduce each speaker on the agenda after the concluding remarks. I will invite each board member by name to provide any comments, questions, or penetrating insights or motions. Please hold all your insights till your name is called. Board members and speakers, please remember to mute your telephone or computer when you're not speaking. Please speak clearly to ensure accurate minutes are recorded. For any response, please wait till you yield the floor. State your name before speaking. If a board member wishes to engage in conversation with another board member, please do so through me to avoid multiple conversations happening at the same time. Lastly, please note that each vote in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Thank you all for your understanding and cooperation. So, at this point, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting of our last meeting.
I'll
So
move
moved.
them.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second to accept the minutes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, no one's jumping up and down. I'll ask you to vote. Carolyn McDonald,
Aye.
Timothy Wheeler,
Aye.
Thomas Andrew,
Aye.
and Jay Teach,
Aye.
and Tom Sanford, aye. Motion carries unanimous. Excellent. Next order of business, do we have any mail or anything from the mailbox that we should attend to, Mr. Teach?
I don't think we have anything beyond what's in the agenda, but I have to check with my assistant clerk to see if he saw anything in the physical mailbox this week.
Did see some things in there and I jammed my little fingers in but I couldn't get anything out.
Really? Well, I've been walking around with a key on my key ring waiting to give it to you. Or stick it down there.
I'm happy to have it.
But we got a pretty full agenda.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Okay. So.
Okay, I was gonna move to buy Tim a pair of long-handled tweezers, but I guess if he's gonna get the key, we don't have to do that.
All right, then we should move on.
Have we got times listed for anything or is it?
Yes, we do. Shall you hear them? You want to hear them?
So do you want me to fill a few things beforehand?
So we had administrative matters and timely items until 7:45.
Okay, you
We
ready?
have 7 minutes.
You ready?
Yes, absolutely.
Kristen just sent a note asking for the contact information for the folks that are proposing the autism facility on River Road.
I don't recall having but Jay, you must, right?
I've got her email address. Yeah,
Can you send that to Kristen?
I can. Yep.
Perfect. Jane
Katie,
sent us a
right?
note today, Tom,
Yes?
saying if by chance we continue to get a blank response about EEA, would we be interested in switching our application
Yeah,
to
she CC'd me as well. Yes, I
Yeah.
saw that.
the one stop
Mm-hmm.
and combine it with some rehash of the subdivision control law as well as the zoning bylaw? So if that interests us, I can get back to her and say, yeah, if we don't hear about EEA, let's try one stop.
We talked about doing it at the same time, right? The last time she suggested that the route we went was the better route, but of course
Yeah.
she didn't realize that we weren't gonna hear from them.
Right.
What happens if the other one comes true?
We choose the one that gives us the most money.
Right, you withdraw the application of the other
Withdraw
one.
the application? All right.
Yeah.
Can we withdraw it without perjury?
Yeah.
I
So is
believe
that-
it's prejudice,
Yes, but
Perjury, whatever?
Is
Yeah.
that all
I
right with
need a
everybody?
lawyer in the
then?
house. Is there a lawyer in the
yeah,
house?
yeah. Yeah, we would withdraw without prejudice, and if it takes perjury to do it, I say we do it.
All right, there you go.
So I'll tell her, go ahead, I mean, we'll talk to her
Right,
more, but we'll
We
tell her we're
obviously
at least
haven't
interested.
missed a deadline for applying.
Yeah, I'll get that I'll tell her that we're interested in talking about it, give us more information and because there would be a match involved and stuff like that.
Yeah, it
as
comes
well.
with a 10% commitment.
Yeah, something like that.
So, and maybe if it's not too egregious, we sweeten the pot a little bit and go a little more than 10.
Yeah.
Set ourselves apart from the other communities that are clamoring.
All right, I'll get in touch with her.
Okay, cool.
We're gonna do the hearing on the
22nd.
22nd of April, right?
Oh, wait a minute. Public hearing 22nd. Yep.
So I should prepare and send out that notice to the paper, right?
4th and the 11th, it needs to be into the paper.
4th and 11th, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll draft something up and then send it to you, and if it looks all right, then I'll get it to the paper.
Okay, excellent.
So as we've run into with CPA, are we planning in person or Zoom?
We got to disclose it in the paper, right?
Is Zoom squared away? It almost seemed like it isn't, huh?
I haven't heard anything official. Last week when CPA met, they definitely announced that everybody was in support of it and that like both the House and the Senate had voted, but I haven't heard anything since then about it being finalized. And I would assume Kristen would send out an email if it had been finalized.
Well, I got an email from Leanne.
Leanne.
Thank you. Reminding me that tonight will be our last Zoom unless things change.
Okay,
So,
so we need to post it as a in-person unless we get something definitive in the next few days.
yep. Unfortunately.
Can we say that
What?
in the
It's
posting?
either or?
That it will be
Flip a coin?
well, that it'll be in person unless the
No, you can't trust that.
unless the state extends Zoom meetings.
No, because people aren't gonna, people that get their news and information from their cell phones may or may not get that. And I'm sure it's not gonna be on TikTok.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe it will be, who knows, but
Well, Tom, you and I can chat before I send the notice out, and we'll just make sure that what we're doing is the right thing. Okay,
Now, if we're not doing Zoom anymore, does Carolyn get a pay cut for her administrative doings being minimized.
You know, without a
We can
doubt.
do it hybrid.
Because we'll be eliminating government waste and inefficiency by not having to pay.
Oh, that's true. That's true. You
We'll
can,
report it at $500 million that we saved, and then in actuality, we saved like 50 cents.
right,
Right.
50 cents. I would take 50 cents.
Sure.
Well, and then we could also start to charge expenses for our travel mileage to get to the meeting. So it'll
Well, there
probably
you
be
go.
There you go. I
Hey,
like that.
70 cents a mile the IRS is paying this year.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
I stopped in at the assessors and it was requested that we make sure we send a copy of any signed plans to them. Because-
I think we have, right?
Well, that's what I said to her. You're not getting plans? And she said, no, no, no. And I thought,
Last one was Mark Rhodes moving his lot line a couple feet. I thought we got that to her.
I mean, what I used to do is just stick it in their mailbox
Yeah,
and
I used to slide it under the door. Same
Yeah.
thing.
Are they then gonna scan it, or should we
Well,
just have an electronic one
they file them. Yeah, they got
in paper?
Right. So probably both.
Yeah, it's
He
pulled.
said that the Ronnie Wheeler subdivision, they had no clue about, and she said, we don't get anything. And I thought, that can't be true.
Yeah.
Well, I was never properly trained. I want you to know that.
No, but get out the
I did.
bylaw.
I had to go on like a treasure hunt to find the file room the other day,
Yeah,
because I went to where I'd been trained to find it, and there was, I don't know,
Oh, everything's
going
been
on?
moved. Yeah.
conference room or something.
yeah.
And then I went to our meeting room, and there was all the files.
Oh,
Kind of like,
I haven't been down there in that long. Whew.
Apparently.
I'd be like lost.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
And then, so that's that. And then the only other thing is that we got a note from Dee saying there's an informational meeting for the warrant on April 17th.
Is that what was being called coffee talk and just isn't being called that anymore?
I guess it's at the town hall.
Yeah, I mean, they used to do the things at 19 Carter, the coffee talks, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
what date's it on?
17th?
We need to send a delegation.
I had to
Not a
change my
quorum of
hair
four.
appointment.
What'd you
I had to change my hair appointment.
say?
Just saying. Um, well, I'm gonna be there, so I have to be there anyway.
I have to be there for CPA.
17th, huh?
So Carolyn and I can hold hands and
There you go.
pretend we're part of the planning board if you
We
want.
can support each other.
Okay.
All right. That's all I have. Thanks. See you around.
Have a good weekend.
Yep.
All righty. Mr. Teach, you're up.
Well, remember the elusive state template that we were talking about that never appeared?
Yes.
Well, they waited till it was too late, and then they sent it. And it's kind of a mess. It's kind of,
Is this the FEMA one
No.
not FEMA,
You,
it's for ADUs.
for ADUs? Okay. Because I thought
And
we were
it's
waiting for both.
Some organization here. Let me see what organization it is. The MAPC, Metropolitan Area Planning
Commission.
Council,
Council.
on behalf of the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. So I guess they got a group of people together and kind of rewrote what was there randomly. Added a few things, left off a few things, put some things in the definitions, never talked about them, talked about some things and didn't put them in the definitions. It's just, I don't know, it's not helpful. But a couple things came out of it. I mean, I was hoping that we would get a really well-written template and we could just have that as the basis and then go and make a few changes, right? Because then it would be less contested and worrisome, but it's not, it doesn't work. So, but each one of these iterations, there's little things that change. So, this one thing that is kind of problematic here. I'll share it. It's just my notes here. This thing about lot, regardless of whether site confirms the zoning or not. What does that mean?
Regardless of whether
I-
the site,
Like,
like
is
current
not just like
zoning,
a one sentence, it's a whole section.
Yeah, I suspect what they mean is that grandfathered non-conforming lots are included, but it's very poorly written.
Now,
Yeah.
Jay, didn't we include language in your draft that implied that lots that were non-conforming would still be allowed to have an ADU?
Yes, we got that all
Yes.
covered, and it's kind of reiterated here. The biggest issue is setbacks. So all along, I've been waiting to see something definitive on setbacks. Because if you have a small lot, say you've got a, 1 acre or less lot, which a lot of these are gonna have, and there's a house kind of plopped in the middle of it, and there's a septic system and there's a well and all these things. Trying to get an ADU that's half the size, 2,000 square foot house, you get a 900 square foot ADU. And if you try to put all the setbacks around that you need to put around the primary residence with all these other things, I think a lot of cases ain't gonna work, right? And so in this particular version, it talks about, it says that you're not allowed to put any kind of restriction that you don't have restricted on your
primary dwelling.
primary dwelling, right? Which would mean that you need the same setbacks, I guess, for the ADU as but then, what's the front yard and what's the side yard and what's the backyard and all that. But it continues, if you look down here, right here, it says, or accessory structure.
So your shed counts too?
Yes, and your barn and your garage and all those things. And we do not have setbacks for those.
Sure we do.
No, I don't think so, because I looked at our accessory structure. We have in-law apartments. And we have two things, in-law apartments and what's the other one? We have two different, basically ADUs that we allow, which are in-law apartment and accessory apartment, right? Those are two things that we have to find in our bylaw. Nothing about setbacks on either one of them.
But the setbacks are just implied for any structure in any parcel.
I don't think that's true, Tim. I was actually talking to somebody who was trying to put in a shed, a pretty big shed.
And they weren't gonna have to live with the setbacks?
That doesn't
No,
seem.
Couldn't figure it out.
No,
It's
if
explicit.
you went to Richard, he'd say, no, you don't meet the setback requirements.
No, guys,
Mm.
I had to put in a setback when I put in a garden shed up against the lumberyard.
Yeah,
Well, if you go through the whole section,
All right, first, let on the
Yeah.
principal dwelling thing, that's in the definition section, Jay.
Yeah,
Okay. Then that doesn't apply to ADUs. It's just part of the principal dwelling, and they're basically saying a principal dwelling is what it is, regardless of whether what it is conforms to setbacks and so on. So I think it's,
yeah.
again, not, you know, not the most elegant approach to grandfathering, but I think that's what they're talking about. Okay. So I just wanted to say that so we get rid of that point. And please, let's go on.
Um,
If I look at table of dimensional regulations, it
Yeah.
says these are the districts. And if you're in a residential agricultural zone, then you've got a 50-foot front yard, a 20-foot side yard, and a 40-foot rear yard. Why doesn't that apply to any structure? You're trying to say it only applies to the principal dwelling?
I think so. I mean, you think it applies to a
Everything.
shed and a garage and a,
Everything. Yep, everything.
That's the way I had always understood it.
And that's the way he's always interpreted it. And
Yeah.
I think what you implied in your first draft was that the dimensional requirements for ADUs would be similar to what's required, no more restrictive than what we require for single family, well, for any structure on any lot.
That's what I remember the provision to be. Is that right, Jay?
uh, I guess so, because the text we've been getting through from the state appeared, it said that the lot did not meet area and frontage, I think,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is what you implied in the,
for dimensional
before.
standards, right? Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so if it's non-conforming, it's an ADU would still be allowed,
Yeah,
but
But subject to
dimensional
offsets,
requirement.
dimensional requirements. Yep. It's
so
an exception only to the frontage and the area requirements.
And that's what you implied in your earlier draft. So I think nothing they've done here changes that. I'd stick with what you already wrote. It's far more elegant than this stuff.
This is garbage.
Yeah. Jeez.
Um,
I'll show you what happens here. Let's keep going.
Well, again,
Well-
I would emphasize, these are definitions, you know, and they're not material provisions. So, you know, as I say, it's a poor way of saying you're grandfathered, you know, in terms of dimensional requirements with respect to pre-existing principal dwellings, and the overall dimensional and frontage requirements of the lot. So, yeah, I think next slide.
right.
Well-
Mr. Chairman, we have a member of the audience that has their hand up.
Um,
Do you want
yeah, but I
questions?
don't know, is there a lot of differences, Jay, that you just have to go through, or can we interrupt?
There's a couple other questions.
Yeah, let's go through all of the questions first, and then we'll take questions from the audience, please.
All right, so this set of drawings was in this template, which is missing a lot of dimensions, so I don't know how much you can conclude from looking at it, but let's go over to this.
Well, so so really, they sent that, huh? I thought
I
that,
sent this thing that's, you should read it. I think it just makes it all more confusing, not better, but.
Right. Cause I
Um,
thought the ADU was only supposed to be 50% of the primary dwelling or up to 900 square feet.
Yeah, that's true.
And
That-
that slide had the principal dwelling of 1,000 feet and an ADU of 600. Now it's late and my
Oh,
math
did it?
isn't always great, but
Eh,
that's to me.
Well, but there aren't enough dimensions. It says 7,000 square foot lot, but it doesn't tell you the height and width and I don't
No,
know.
but yeah. So, anyway,
Yeah.
just,
Okay. This whole purpose thing, they changed that again for a third time, I guess. And then the definitions got messed with and some got left out and some got added. There's this modular dwelling unit thing now. See that in red?
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is probably the issue there, you know, there's manufactured homes and there's whatever house trailers are that are distinct and described separately by the state and by the international building codes and stuff. And this is interesting because it says movement to the site and affixed to a foundation. I guess if you look at it, it has to meet all of the codes. The problem with the mobile homes is they work to a different code. Right?
but they're not affixed to a foundation.
Well, they
So
can be.
this would be a prefab.
Yeah. So it defines this, but it never references it in their template document, except when you get all the way to the end, there's a checklist and it says, oh, by the way, you need to allow these. So I put in our document, I put in that this is allowed. Right? This was also, I don't think in the text before, so I added it, that whatever's on the property right now, the largest building is your primary. So if you get a triple decker that's 3,000 square feet, that's what you're starting from, as opposed to
And they count
Two.
that as one unit?
they count as one unit. Yeah.
Wow.
Good Lord.
Well, it makes sense where there are triple deckers, you know.
Yeah, I haven't really thought through the implications of that, but what else we got here? So we are allowed to require site plan review, but not special permits except under certain conditions. Right? And I wasn't sure, so I thought we should put this in here. I presume we do want site plan review in all cases. Is that right?
Well, I think given the fact that setbacks and so on apply, it's probably good,
idea.
although it would be fairly perfunctory in most cases, I think.
Probably. So is that Richard? Who does that?
ZBA.
ZBA.
The site plan review does?
I think it's us, honestly.
We don't
I
do.
would have thought it was us
review.
too.
Special permits is the ZBA.
Right.
But
And
who does site-
variances and,
I think it's the building commissioner. I don't know if it's in the.
Well,
It was
but
a
isn't
prelim.
every project
No,
site plan reviewed by the building commissioner?
No,
make sure it
no,
conforms.
it's not site plan review as a term of art. It's like conformity to the zoning bylaw.
right.
Site plan review is prior to that and may add conditions to that the building inspector has to apply.
Well, that's specifically the phrase that's used over and over in this document.
No, and it's a particular term of art, which is, you know, it's subject to an intermediate step in which you review things and add conditions if you wish.
Okay, so who does that?
ZBA.
I thought it was the ZBA, but
Yes, we've
Okay.
never done, and we've talked about this for as long as, you know, we've been alive. We talked years ago when Charlie was on the board, because he was upset that site plan approval was part of the ZBA's responsibility. And he said, you know, planning board in a lot of towns does site plan approval. We ought to do site plan approval. And we said, no, we're happy. Let them do site plan approval. So Susanna's on the sidelines here from ZBA, but
Don't we do them for these commercial buildings we've been
we
looking at?
Well,
do
that's
it
what I
for-
was
for
thinking.
overlays, the
Overlay.
big overlays,
Yep.
Almond Pond Mall, all those things, but we
And
don't
what
do it.
about the Kane building up on down by 495? What was that?
The ZBA did that.
Mhm.
Oh, but weren't we going over
They came and-
parking and all that?
We
They always
were
like
for-
to chat with us, but
Well,
we
yeah,
helped-
we
we
were
helped
just
clear the
for
deck.
the subdivision of that property.
Oh, it's a subdivision. Okay.
They were trying to put us, see, that was the problem they had is they needed relief from the cul-de-sac that they had at the end of Entwistle Drive.
so
Didn't have enough frontage.
Okay.
1235, procedures for site plan review. The Board of Appeals shall refer copies of the application within 5 days to the Conservation Commission, Planning Board, Board of Health, da, 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 da. So they do site plan approval. So if you put site plan approval in this, you could, if you wanted to, specify that the planning board would have the responsibility for site plan review for ADUs, but why mix the deck, you know? I mean, ZBA does it, they know how to do it, they do it well. Let them continue to do it.
Okay. And what did they do differently than the building commissioner does when he reviews?
They can add additional conditions.
Mhm.
Okay.
So for instance, if you have something that conforms to an offset, but overlooks the bedroom windows of an adjoining property, whatever, there's an opportunity to hear that and to make adjustments to it.
Okay. All right, down here, we were talking about no more than 2 bedrooms. Somewhere in the fine print, I found that was not allowed.
I don't think we've talked about putting a limit on bedrooms anyway, have we?
Yeah,
No, I think we did.
We
Yeah,
did,
Okay.
yeah.
We said 2?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
but
if
I
it's
don't
not
think we can
allowed,
do it.
if it's not allowed, it ain't allowed.
It's
It
gonna
was-
be, the septic systems are gonna dictate, so that's.
Exactly, exactly.
That's fine.
Maybe. The building side of the PDM is. Okay, so setbacks, I guess, well, this is what we were just talking about, so that's, we're gonna leave that in, right?
Yeah, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we do have the ability, and all those little drawings I was showing you were basically a recommendation to maybe have smaller setbacks for the PADU than for the primary residence.
Right.
Do we want to consider that?
Personally, I say we leave it alone for right now. If if it turns out to be an issue, we can always amend that.
Well, if it turns out to be an issue in a particular case, and I think it will only be particular, very particular in few cases, people can apply for a variance.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, I'll leave that in.
Just getting back to site plan and review again, I mean, what it requires is a public hearing, so it allows the butters to participate. If the
Yeah.
building inspector did that independently, then there would be no opportunity for butters to ever chime in.
Right,
Yeah,
and
good point.
yeah, and as I said before, if, for example, a particular position overlooked a sensitive portion of another property, it gives an opportunity for that abutting property owner to object and for additional conditions to be added. So that, and then that becomes, together with the basic zoning bylaw, what the building inspector applies to the particular situation.
And
Okay, that makes
the-
sense.
there's also language in here that says the Board of Appeals may waive any informational requirements it judges to be unnecessary to the review of a particular plan. So they can huddle and agree that someone doesn't need to jump through horrendous hoops in order to come in with a simple ADU application, so.
Yeah.
But-
And as I said, I think that these would be, as Mark Twain said, it's hard to make predictions, especially about the future, but I would think that these would be perfunctory and fairly rare.
Okay. Back here again, let's see. This modular dwelling unit thing was not in their template document, but I think it should be since somewhere else it says that they're allowed, right?
So what, do we call out modular units, dwelling units anywhere else in anything else? Why wouldn't it be considered
No, we
a
don't.
regular build?
Yeah, this seems to me to be language, in search of a problem, solving a problem that wasn't already there.
Agreed.
I think our existing bylaw makes no distinction. You meet the building code and all of that, and you're good. I don't think we need to add this stuff.
The way I look
But I
at
don't think
it,
it makes any harm either.
Except
Right.
often when you include stuff like that, people are like, oh, well, if someone is doing a prefab and it doesn't mention it anywhere else except in that one thing.
Yeah,
I think it can
and
help
also
create confusion.
also you have maybe some voters have objections to prefab because of their appearance, etc. There's always that aspect of democracy. I agree with you, Carolyn.
well, so are you suggesting we should leave it out? So you're
I
saying?
think we should just leave it out because I think our zoning bylaw already allows it.
Right, if we
I
don't
think
call it
that's
out
true.
anywhere else specifically,
Right.
I don't think
Okay,
there's a need to
so-
address it.
So I can do that. In the template, there's a definition, see G here, which is unnecessary because it's never referenced in their document.
Right.
So let's
I
just leave
agree.
it up to, right?
I
Good.
agree.
Why
That's what I
create
said.
a problem that you don't need?
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
language in search of a problem that doesn't exist. Absolutely.
Don't
Okay,
buy trouble.
got it. Okay, I don't know, when we get to the end here, okay, the other thing is this parking thing, which is kind of moving around a bit. Do we allow on-street parking? Like, do we allow somebody to build a unit for somebody to live in that's going to park on the street?
I doubt it.
You can't park on the street,
You can't park on the street? Why not?
not during certain times. So you'd have to find a way to park. I
You
mean, I think-
imagine, think about up by you, where the house is, the farmhouse is that's right on the corner. Can you imagine putting a dwelling unit there and saying, well, you have to park on the street at the top of Sawyer Hill Road? That'd be preposterous.
Well, not only
Yeah.
that, if we wouldn't allow it for a primary residence, we don't have to allow it for this.
No, I agree. And I do think we have an on-street parking ordinance.
yeah,
Do we?
well, in
Yeah, I
times
think
of
we do.
certain weather,
So
Yeah.
Certainly in the winter.
this came up because it was in this template thing. Let me see if I can find it.
Sure,
Yeah.
but that, again,
Yeah, for
I believe
Cambridge
you
or
even said
Somerville
this
or
in your
someplace around
email.
there.
Is
I
that
actually,
the template is for this whole state.
yeah,
That might be relevant somewhere else, but I don't believe it's relevant here.
Okay.
yeah, I actually think that there's a parking ordinance that prohibits overnight parking on the street, period. But I could be wrong. It's been a long time since I looked at it, but I think that's the case. So anyway, I think we should,
Yeah, because it says here, decide if you will require a parking space for all PADUs away from a transit station, or if you will not require any additional parking. Consider the general walkability and pedestrian safety,
yeah,
requiring no parking, blah, 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 blah. So
Yeah, no,
Okay, so-
absolutely. And
yeah.
I would bet that the people in town would feel a little bit better about us requiring a parking space.
Yep, let's do it. I think that was all.
Nice job.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jay.
I'm glad it's over.
Well, it ain't over until the fat lady sings at the annual town meeting, but
Yep. All
our,
right.
our work is over. Thank you.
Uh,
Well,
but what has Susanna got to offer in
oh
regard?
yeah,
Yeah,
let's see what
please.
she has to say.
Let's
Yeah.
see. You're up, Sue.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I went to the CPTC conference on March 15th and I attended the ADU workshop that they had. And I can answer a couple of your questions if you want.
Sure.
Okay. So the first thing is the non-conforming lot. If you have a house that is non-conforming, in other words, it's too close to the side yard setback, you cannot require the ADU to have your conforming setback if it's attached. So in other words, it cannot be more non-conforming,
Mhm.
but it can align with the existing house if it's attached, the same as what you would do with an addition, if it was just an addition on a house. So that was one thing they said, but they also specified that if it's a detached ADU, then those non-conforming aspects no longer apply. If it's detached, it has to comply with the new zoning bylaws,
Huh.
setbacks.
No,
that's
thank
good.
you. I think that's consistent with what our the proposed bylaw currently says. Thank you.
You're welcome. The second aspect is the parking. The no parking is only when it's within a certain distance from public transportation. So you should require a parking space if it's not within that circumference of, say, a bus station.
Right, no, but they were saying that we could extend that beyond it, right? I think that's how I read this right here.
Yes, you can make it less conforming, which means you don't have to require a parking space. You can't make it more, so you can't say there would be 2 parking spaces.
Okay.
So there was that. For the question about the modular, what they mentioned was that, let me scroll down on my notes here. Mobile homes, tiny homes do not meet the criteria for an ADU unless they meet current building code requirements and have a permanent foundation. So I think modular is a little bit misleading because modular homes usually are on foundations. I think what they were trying to say, I don't know why they would make this kind of mistake though, is for mobile homes and tiny homes, which generally are on wheels.
Right.
Yep. Yep. So I think again, the proposal that Jay has kindly put together is consistent with that.
I agree. I agree. So, um, one issue that we are already experiencing is that, and I don't know if it's addressed in your bylaw yet, but current pre-existing ADUs. It's unclear from the seminar if you have, and I'm thinking of a very particular home in Berlin. If you have a detached ADU and it looks like its own house, and then you have the house that is the primary dwelling, it should not read that the detached in-law can have an ADU and the primary dwelling can have an ADU. And I think we need to say that in our bylaw. Especially for pre-existing non-conforming. And I think we also need to say something about the pre-existing non-conforming, if it's below 900 square feet, which is the maximum by this new proprietary right ADU, that it is now a by right ADU. But if it's over 900 square feet, then it still requires a special permit. And that's unclear, and that is an issue that is coming up right now on a property in town.
Well,
Oh.
don't we say something about that an ADU can be over 900 square feet with a special permit? Didn't you put
Well,
something in
no,
there
we
too about that?
left our old,
Right.
our two old, in-law apartment and accessory apartment. We left all that alone.
Yes,
Right.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but I think you need to clarify that pre-existing ADUs, you need to clarify that pre-existing before this period, if it's over 900 square feet, it is still required to have a special permit, because there is some talk that anything pre-existing is automatically by right now and does not need a special permit.
But if it's in existence, why would you need another special permit?
Yeah, what? Right.
Because
Becau-
anything that exists now does need a special permit every 5 years, right?
Yes.
Oh, right.
So if I have a 1,200 square foot in-law apartment that the 5-year expiration is next year, if we don't say which way it is, it could be interpreted that my 1,200 square foot ADU now doesn't have to be an in-law and doesn't require a special permit, and I can rent it out to anybody. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm
Sadly.
trying to figure out how I'm trying to figure out how we deal with it. That
Yeah.
makes perfect sense.
I think we need wordage that says any ADU over 900 square feet is still requires a special permit, even pre-existing.
Well, or
Yeah.
it still needs to be under the provisions of accessory apartment and in-law apartment in the document we have.
Yeah, a special permit in accordance with the existing zoning bylaw, maybe just that in a sentence.
I just, yeah, there just
Mm.
has been some confusion already with what happens to a pre-existing that does not meet this new ADU square footage.
No, it's a great point.
Yeah,
Mm.
so what we were careful to do was leave the current language in place, but what we need is a bridge sentence that acknowledges the distinction, right?
Yep,
Yes.
yep. Just along the lines that I just indicated. Yep.
Yeah, instead of saying though that needs a special permit every 5 years or whatever, we should refer to the section where that's stated, because I'm
Will
guessing
remain
you'd have
subject to the
changes.
particular section.
Yeah,
Yep.
Because
I don't think you have to say 5 years, because that's something we set when we make the decision.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
well, that's in the bylaw. The 5
Yep.
years.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's new.
I didn't think anyone had actually built one of those or whatever, made it known that they existed.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
there is one in particular that brought it to our attention over on Autumn Ridge.
Oh, right, the big one, yeah. How many people actually, how many ADUs have been granted special permits in the last few years?
Last year, I think we did at least 2. I don't know. I should know because we just wrote the thing for the annual town meeting.
Huh. Well, that's probably 2% of the ones that are out there, right?
Yeah, but you should also know too that the ADUs are going to count because you have to track them now and give your information to the state every year. That the ADUs will affect the denominator when determining affordable housing stock to
Oh,
meet
yeah.
percent.
Yeah.
The only way they won't affect the denominator is if the person renting out their ADU has gone for Section 8 housing.
Right.
So you could conceivably write in your bylaw, you are allowed to increase the square footage to 1,000 square feet if you maintain it as a Section 8 housing.
Thought we weren't allowed
Say that
to
again?
put that
No.
restriction.
Yeah, I don't think
You can make them bigger, but you can't make them smaller.
So but what do you're saying that that we could allow it to be bigger if it was on the SHI?
Yes,
So,
Oh.
but that means it would always have to be that way,
yes.
Correct.
because once it's built, it's built.
Well, it can't be a protected use ADU, then it becomes a regular ADU.
Yeah.
You can't go above 900 for a protected use ADU under any circumstances, as far as I can tell.
Well, I'm just saying, what she's saying here is you can make them larger if you want to in your own bylaw.
Yes,
It says a municipality may write a bylaw that allows for larger than 900 square foot maximum size for an ADU, but not smaller. The
Right.
local bylaw may be less restrictive, but not more restrictive.
So I think what we've proposed to do is not to deal with that now, and like Carolyn suggested on that other matter, we can let the dice roll for a little while and then address this down the road if we think it makes sense.
Yep, I'm just throwing it out there in case you were concerned about your 10%.
Yeah, we are, but
Yeah.
I don't know how you police that,
yeah,
and I don't know how you make that unit be an affordable unit in 20 years. Like,
Yeah,
the
I
only
think-
way would be to deed restrict it.
yeah, I think
I
we've
don't know
assumed-
how Section 8 works, so.
Yeah. I don't think we're gonna see people building ADUs, and not try to maximize the income from them. Yeah, I mean, again, I think let's see what happens in the first year of experience, and then we can make some modifications if we think it's necessary.
yeah. Well, the state law may change in that time too.
Yeah, I will warn you
As
that
we know.
they are looking at writing in I can't say the word, condominialization, making condos out of your ADUs.
That we must allow it, or that
Well,
it
they
can
haven't
be
said.
allowed.
Yeah, they just said they're looking into how to have ADUs as condos. That was all they said. I was just
Hmm.
giving you a heads up.
Yeah, that's silly.
Such a
It's
mess.
not an ADU at that point.
Right, exactly.
Well, what's definitely coming is the oversupply of luxury apartments are going to start turning to condos. I take a bet on that.
Yeah.
Because there's even more coming online, like 2 more in Marlboro, I think, and they can't fill them up so
2
far.
or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
So that was all I had, unless you had questions for me. I can go back to being mute.
That was very
helpful.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Suzanne.
No, that was very helpful. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, and you're welcome.
Bye, Sue.
Bye.
So we're going to make some changes to our draft here, a couple of them. And the warrant's getting printed today or yesterday or tomorrow, right?
No, no, no,
I thought, is
Right, we
No.
probably have another couple weeks, right?
that right?
I don't think we've got till we meet again.
Oh, maybe it's the day before we meet again. Maybe that's
I
what it
think that
is.
may
I
be
think
it.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she reached out and was asking about CPA bylaws
But
and
we don't need to have our vote to endorse it until right before the town meeting, right?
we could do it at the hearing usually.
At the hearing,
Right.
okay. So if I edit this,
Submit it to Kristen.
even though it's past the deadline, she'll take it?
It's not past the deadline yet.
Right, she knew that we were waiting for language from the state and,
Let me look for her.
Okay, because I think she'd give us an earlier date, but it's not at the
Oh.
printer yet, so.
I
I'll
emailed
update
her
and send
the
it to
other
her.
day and because she wanted to know if we'd be ready by such and such a time, and I said we were meeting tonight and we would have no problem meeting her deadline with another draft.
Okay. And I
Um,
wrote a description to put in the warrant. You know, a
yeah,
paragraph.
she wants those too.
Well, I sent her one because there was a deadline for that, but I don't know if I sent it to all you guys. I sent it to some of you. I think. Anybody remember getting
not
that?
all of us.
Right, yeah.
You want me to find it so you can look at it?
I'd be willing to trust you.
She says we
Really?
plan to go to the printer on April 3rd.
So that's next week.
Yeah.
Oh, heard.
And I said that we were meeting tonight and that we would send her a final draft for inclusion before the 3rd.
All right. Hmm. Here's
And
my
then
description
the
right here.
hearing could result in some modifications and we'd make some amendments on the floor if we need to.
Yep. There's the description, goes in the description
The
box.
law requiring every city and town to allow construction.
I guess if we're wordsmithing this, I would take out the word some in the last sentence. And just,
Yeah, good idea.
Yep.
And what was the other thing?
no, that was it.
Just that it? Yeah.
Yep, adds
for it.
modifications appropriate to our town.
The
Yep.
only other thing,
Um,
the only other thing would be if we want to add a bridge sentence from this new proposal to our existing.
Right. And where would we put that?
From, what was it? What was that again?
We talked about a bridge sentence. It would bridge this proposal to our existing ADU.
Like what we were just talking about with Sue.
I just don't know where it would go.
What about in the size requirement section?
Are we talking about in the description or in the warrant article?
In the
the
warrant
ar-
article.
Or-
Oh, okay.
So
Back to this again.
Jay,
right?
can you go to where it describes the limitations of size?
Right here, isn't it?
Yeah, so under A, I would say any ADUs larger than this. must conform to Berlin bylaw section, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Uh, 510 is in-laws. 520 is
520 is accessory.
accessory.
So bylaw sections 510 and 520.
And 510 and 520.
Put an S on the end of section J.
That covers in-law, accessory, detached accessory. Yeah.
And do we want to say any larger existing or any larger new or pre-existing?
Mm-hmm.
Just on.
Is there a reason that the text has dots between?
Yes,
Oh, it's because I'll turn that off.
Oh,
So you can see what you're actually typing.
oh, I see. Oh,
So when the formatting gets all messed up later, you know why.
nice.
it's an old Word document hack. You're like,
Mhm.
why can't I move the cursor to this place? And you turn that on, and you're like, you've got 37 paragraph. You've got 37 times you hit enter.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
oh, that's why.
Well, and the
Yes,
formatting goes
now
with
I know.
the formatting goes with the little paragraph mark at the end, so you can move it around and apply it all different places real easily.
Yep.
Copy it whenever.
I like it.
Okay.
It's good enough.
Yep,
All right. It doesn't need a vote or anything. I will just update it and send it. And
we
Whatever.
voted on it before.
Yeah,
yeah.
great.
Good job, Jay. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Lots
Yeah.
of work.
You're welcome. If the state sends me any more stuff though, I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
ignore it.
Yeah.
pretend I didn't get it.
Yep. Too late.
Exactly.
All right. We moving on to floodplain. We had two more things to do, right?
Yep.
Yeah, floodplain. Oh, Carolyn, would you share the floodplain article I sent you?
Hmm.
I sent it to you about 2 hours ago.
Oh. Well, that explains why. I'm like, oh God, I don't remember that. That explains that.
It's recent.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Uh, Here you go.
So I shared this with Katie several times and she kept chewing on it a little bit here and a little bit there. And the final thing she asked us to do was to include definitions, which lengthened the document by quite a bit. But she's given her approval to what we've got in here now. And I think I believe I used the same phrase that we used in the ADU bylaw when it came to definitions, suggesting that the definitions in this are embedded in this section and only apply to this section because they don't always agree with the definition we've got in our general bylaw. And I assume that when we do the rewrite, we'll try to bring everything into agreement, but in the interim, trying to throw definitions into our definition section would throw stuff out of whack. There were only a couple that crossed and were new, but I thought rather
Back
than
up a little bit.
go in that direction.
Says.
And then the other question I
Best
asked was,
available federal, state, local, or other floodway data.
yeah. So
What happens when they conflict?
I think we can take federal off there, given the current regime, but
Yeah, but when I look at this, there's that private company that I showed you,
right.
like Zillow is promoting, and then there's FEMA, and they are different.
Yeah.
So which one's better?
Well, what
Just
she's
available.
telling us, she wants us to use this language for the time being. So
Yeah, I guess we can use it, but what does it mean? If somebody comes in and they got FEMA and Zillow, right?
I imagine
One says you're in a floodplain and the other one doesn't.
I imagine they're going to, and you think that the Zillow is going to be more restrictive. So I imagine they'd try to
think
stay
they're
out of the floodplain as much as they could,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I don't know how you determine it because, I look at them and I see areas that I've never seen water on, right?
In the new ones?
Both. I think none of them are that accurate because they're created from topographical data from a satellite or something.
Yeah.
So you could very easily have someone showing up, the FEMA one says your house is already underwater, and then they find someone else who shows that it's only underwater once every 1,000 years or vice versa. I don't know. It's not our problem, I guess, because we're using somebody else's template, right?
Yeah.
well,
Couldn't we
I mean,
state,
my own feeling is we should go with the most restrictive of the two, or the
I wouldn't-
multiples.
I think that's asking for trouble.
All right, then they present two, so what do we do?
I think we
know.
could state that we're going to follow one. And I'd say FEMA. We follow FEMA's rules and regulations, period. They don't like it, then sorry.
Well, we could also say the most current or most up-to-date data.
Yeah,
Because doesn't FEMA like only update their maps like every 10 years or something?
I would actually tend to go with FEMA at this point in terms of being kind of bulletproof as a standard.
Well, the other
And
Yeah.
Go
The other
ahead.
issue is insurance companies, right? So, I mean, the kind of primary reason for doing this is so that we're able to allow people to get federal flood insurance.
My understanding is insurance companies go with FEMA.
And the
I think
bank,
The
the bank-
reason that this private company exists is because the insurance companies want their data instead or something.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know the answer, honestly.
I just,
I think picking the worst, the most restrictive is really dangerous because there may be 10 different companies, in a few years all doing this. And you'll get to the
Yeah.
point where you make it impossible for anybody to build a house on their lot.
yeah.
No,
and
but I think by the same token, if they're going to be 10, to leave it entirely open is also asking for trouble,
Trouble.
because how are you going to pick between those 10?
Yeah,
So
I
I would,
agree.
I would go with Tom Sanford and say, let's go with FEMA for now.
I think that's a good idea. I was driving through downtown Charleston last week, South Carolina, and noticed, hey, all these houses are 3 to 5 feet up above
Yeah,
the ground.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
All of them.
Yeah,
You walk up a flight of stairs to get to your front door.
yeah.
Yep. Which reminds me, how is your better half, Jay?
oh, yeah,
It was a disaster and it turned out great and she's feeling good and
good.
recovering quickly. Thank you.
that's
Good.
wonderful.
I'm very, very happy the way it was resolved.
So, should I strike this?
Katie said this is the language she wants, and I'm hesitant to, after she's reviewed it several times, to start messing with it.
Can we go back to her on that point?
I can
And say our-
certainly say to
our-
her, what is the purpose of including
Alright.
all these options, right?
Yeah.
Well,
So
and what's the definition of best available?
right,
best
so
in what
I'll
way?
highlight that for you.
Yep. And I'll chase her. And you'll allow me to use her explanation as a decision maker for me, right?
Sure.
Well, I think again, in the context of what we just talked about, I mean, I would ask her, I mean, what happens if we have 10 sources? Where does that leave us?
Right.
Right.
I'll chase her down.
Yeah. Or is there some other words that we can put in that gives us a way to choose?
Hmm.
Yeah,
You
you
gotta be
see down
careful with that,
below in
'cause now you're gonna
410
be-
point. no. In
You gotta be
410.6, it says what to do if there's no FEMA data, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, yeah, we may have to cross that bridge. My own feeling is a black line test is best, because if you have to choose between a number of sources, you're opening yourself up to litigation, and
Hmm.
you're opening up yourself to having a procedure for determining which is more accurate and so on. And I wouldn't have a clue as to how to do the due diligence on something like that.
I'll ask her.
Well, and this other one, the 410.6, it should probably be written, if there's no federal, you use state. If there's no state, you use another source,
Hmm.
something like that. So it's black and white, even though that
Well,
there's several choices.
yeah.
She's very quick to respond, so I'll chase her tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what surprised me. I mean, I'd email her in the morning and she'd get back to me in the afternoon, so.
And I'm enough of an optimist, even under the current circumstances, to think that if FEMA is gone, Houston, we have a problem, and we could leave it at FEMA, but let's see what she says.
Yeah. They specify what type of chain I have to chain my ATV down with.
What size?
Yeah.
They didn't know, fortunately, right?
That's in regulations to be promulgated.
Mm.
Hmm.
So this is saying if a river is altered or relocated, river or stream, there's no DEP or EPA notification. That seems weird.
I can chase her on that one.
Yeah, just like DCR. Yeah, great. But this is all wetlands protection stuff.
Good.
$25 for 100.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, so what is this saying? The issuance
Variance
of
to construct a structure below the base flood level will result in increased premium rates for flood insurance up to amounts as high as.
If you have $1 million house, if the insurance is over
So-
$250,000 a year,
Shouldn't it be per flood
high.
insurance up to amounts as high as $25 per $100 of insurance coverage?
Even so,
Chase.
that's still super high.
that's an insane number. It should be $25 per 1,000 or something.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was just worried about the grammar.
Or 10. I'll chase down that one. I'll go back and look at the sample one they gave us. 410.
Can you back, what's the first part of that paragraph? Variance of the tenants is one. Huh. This is like the lettering on the back of the cigarette pack.
Yeah.
Right.
410.
This was something I was sort of unaware of, and
It's really weird.
that's a very accurate assessment of it. And I say that as somebody who smoked for many years. One of my concerns about this one is if this would create any cause of action. Once you start to inform people of a risk, is the notification adequate? And I think, Jay, what you said is this is more dire than it would be. But Tim, maybe I'd ask her is this really required? And if it's required, I would tend to be as dire as possible, even though somebody's going to discard the cellophane and the warning and buy the house anyway, because I think what we're looking at here is language that nobody could point to say, hey, you told me it was this risk and it was a greater risk.
Right.
Shouldn't it say that it could result in the unavailability of insurance? Which is more likely, isn't it? Just nobody will write a policy.
I like that to add unavailability of insurance or expensive insurance. Yeah.
Yeah, because
All
the
right.
cost of insurance, is already skyrocketing and it's not solving the problem. So this may
Yeah.
seem cheap at some point.
Well,
Yeah.
that's because
So-
people still live in Tornado Alley and
Mudslides.
mudslides and
Well, there's a whole state that people are living in that's going to be underwater in about 10 years.
right. And those of us who don't live in those areas are all paying for their
Yep.
housing.
It seems to be trickling over from property insurance, homeowners insurance into auto insurance. what I've been reading. It seems like a lot of those companies write policies for both. And I think the auto rates have gone way up for no reason, and that may be it.
Think about how many cars had to be replaced just in California because of the fires,
Oh, that's true, yeah,
right?
No,
Never
and-
mind
that's true.
all the floods. Any car that gets flooded out gets totaled.
And Hurricane Sandy.
Hurricanes,
Yeah,
That's true.
tornadoes,
That was down in
hailstorms.
Yeah.
Texas.
Have you ever seen a car with hail damage?
Oh, yeah.
Rented one once.
When I worked for Budget, we saw a bunch of them, and I was dumbfounded, living here all my life. It
Yeah,
is not a thing. And cars are more expensive now to replace.
Mhm.
So I'll
and
chase her
repair
on
and
that one.
repairs are hugely expensive. Yep. Okay.
All right.
oh, we only got 5 minutes left.
Uh-oh. Read quick.
We gotta do the dirt importation and deportation.
Right. So, and then the rest of this, Tim, you said is all definitions,
Definitions, yeah,
and these are straight from Katie.
Yep. From her.
We
yeah.
don't have any historic districts, right? Because I took all that out of the ADU
No,
thing, yeah.
good. Okay, I'll chase her on those questions.
All right, I will save this and send you this with the highlights.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome. Next,
Dirt.
Are they,
Oh.
they gonna have an article on the warrant? Is that what they're doing?
I
That
think they
deals-
want to combine two things. I sent it to you guys, right?
Yeah. But they want to do it at this town meeting? Is that your
That's
impression?
what she said. I mean, she missed her own deadline, I think, so we could tell her she can't do it.
go ahead.
I don't know where I put it. Email. Did you guys remember getting a document from me? I forwarded from her.
Her being Kristen?
Kristen, yeah.
Mm,
I remember, did I get it from her or did I get it from you?
Thought I sent it to you guys. Maybe this is it. Let me see. Nope.
From you or from the planning board?
It would be from planning board. It should be from planning board. I'll find it. Here it is. What? Oh, come on.
How long ago was it?
Oh, the Earthworks?
Earthworks. Here it is.
I got it from Tim on March 17th.
From Tim. No, you got it
From Tim, not you.
I'm gonna find the email I sent it to you with. Mm. Let's see. Look familiar?
Looks like the thing Tim sent me.
100 cubic yards isn't that much. I don't know if we want to go through the whole thing, but oh, there's comments in it.
Turn the comments on.
way.
Right there. Oh, you can't see where I'm pointing.
There is Italy.
Right, and then right over on the right-hand side of the screen, there's four boxes.
There. Markup. Markup.
And so who was it decided is going to oversee this?
They want to throw it at the planning board.
Who's
I
trying to get
know.
us to do it?
Yeah, there's no way the planning board should do this.
We're not good with dirt. Well, dirt, yeah, dirt would be the Conservation Commission, right?
Yeah,
Wetlands Protection Act, land underwater. Oh shit, land. Oh, sorry.
No, that means mud, not dirt.
That's right. And that's existing, not imported.
Yes. Let me say, because I was on the Board of Selection for a number of years, this doesn't come up very much, and it's really no more in the bailiwick of the planning board than the Board of
Than
Selectmen.
anybody
I don't think,
else.
yeah, or anybody else. Yes.
Yeah. Which was why they tried to have the Earthworks Committee and then tried to have it actually be people who knew about this stuff.
right. That makes the most sense.
Yep.
They could create an advisory committee to the Board of Selectmen, you know?
Yeah, that's what they should do. I
Yeah.
like that idea.
You know, sort of along the lines of the fire engineers, you know, that but there's no way we should be doing it.
The applicant must submit a transportation plan showing routes through the town, receiving time, dates of time, days of deliveries, measures, protecting, blah, 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 blah. This is all for 100 cubic yards of dirt?
Or more.
Yeah.
I mean, all of those things are things that we did on the Board of Selectmen, but it's
Really?
their bylaw. I don't think we have to comment on it that much. Just say we think this should remain with the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, and like you've said, have it, they should appoint an advisory group that knows
Yeah.
this issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't have to meet on any regular basis. It just gets called
Just
in when the
Right.
issue arises.
An ad hoc
Yep,
advisory committee. Yep.
Yeah.
great.
Jay,
We like it.
can you just go through it once without all the markups? And then just scroll to see. Like all that stuff that was in blue is actually accepted and in here, right?
I believe so, yeah. But there's some things that need to get
Yeah,
updated.
filled in. Yep.
Ooh, an obligee. I never heard of that before.
Ooh.
Well, I'm a lawyer. I've heard about that. It's the partner of an obligor.
I think the Beatles sang a song about that.
Oh God, I hope not. Oh, yes, but you're right. Oh, but you will do. I don't think that was quite the words, but close. Yes. Yes.
So one of my properties, all there is clay, but it's not allowed to be used, huh?
Well,
And you know
I mean,
why.
without getting too far into the weeds, I mean, and believe me, when I was on selectmen, we were involved in very involved litigation over the importation of
That continues
material
to this
from the
day.
Boston Harbor. But yes,
Yes.
exactly. Um,
Yeah, but people put seashells in their plant pots.
yeah, no, and it's not
Mm.
the seashells that I'm worried about. It's the rest of the crap that got dumped on top of the seashells in Boston Harbor, you know, but
And then dredged out and then put in Berlin.
yes,
Glass, isn't glass
exactly.
made out of sand?
Mm.
And it was clay. I mean, it was really clay material. I mean, I did an inspection of it in the middle of summer, and I wanted to come back in the spring so that I could make clay pipes out of it. It was unbelievable.
I got a whole property full of that. It goes down at least 10 feet. So anytime you need
Yeah.
some, give me a
All
ring.
right. All right.
We're just gonna send a note back to Kristen about this. We don't
Yeah,
need.
saying
Right.
we don't think it's appropriate for planning board. We think that it should remain with selectmen, and we might suggest that they could locate an ad hoc advisory committee on it. And that's it.
Agreed.
Who's doing that, Mr. Chairman? Who are you gonna appoint for that?
Oh, and wasn't saying a planning board member should be on that advisory committee.
Oh, and somebody has
because-
to write that up and send it to Kristen, right?
Well, Tim's the
I'll-
one who sent this out.
What?
Punish him for that.
Well, if nobody else wants to do it, I'm very busy, but that's to me is like a 4-sentence email. And I can do it if people would like.
I gotta,
Vote.
I'm gonna chase down Kristen, so I'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, Tim.
I'll do it.
We give Tim an award or something at the end of the year?
No, you can, but
Yeah.
I was hoping we could talk about Thomas's letter of commitment to Marlboro.
Yes, well, I was going to raise that at the very end to say, and I really would like to finish about 9:15 because I have to be in my office in Boston at 7 tomorrow morning for a call with our Tokyo office. But you know what I was going to say is I know and apologize that I only sent it about a day and a half ago. I would ask people to perhaps to approach it this way, to take a look at it and to email to me separately any or email any separate comments that people have on it, and that we could put an integrated draft in front of the committee at the next meeting. But if we think we can dispose of it, or in the next few minutes,
I mean, can we?
that's okay too.
I thought it hit all the right tone.
Is there anything else on the agenda?
That's it.
Jay, can you share that?
Yep, let me just find it.
Because I did not get a chance to read it yet.
Yeah.
My
Um,
sense is that we're gonna get, I mean, the select board's got to look at it at some point, and
Right.
if we're comfortable with it enough to share it with Kristen and them now, so they can chime in as we chime in,
I think that's a good idea.
because there's no point in us trying to fine tune it and having them disagree that they don't want to sign certain parts of it, you know?
Jay, I don't
No,
think
I-
this is the right one. I think
No,
this
I think
is
it's an old
Tim's.
one, right?
Yeah.
That's
All right,
Tim's
I'm-
draft.
Yeah,
Um,
mine was just sent. When
yeah.
was it? When was it? Monday morning,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. What I would just say in the next few minutes that we have is what we encountered was the fact that there was, as he said in Cool Hand Luke, a failure to communicate in terms of the status of that under the existing bylaws. When Tim and I went to speak to Marlboro, we understood better that they had like thrown all the spaghetti at the wall, but they had a special permit process that would allow them to weed it out. They recognized that we really have to look at that facility as a whole in order to maximize its continuing utility, both to local businesses and to the towns. And what I added to this, but I think what was implicit in the discussions was that we establish a framework whereby the town will disclose any approaches that developers make to it, and the city will disclose to the town any developments that are suggested to it, which are far more likely. Right. And that it creates a framework where from very early on through 2 representatives from each of the city and town, work together and coordinate it, and we take it from there. I mean, my feeling is that this is entirely positive to Berlin. It plugs us in. It memorializes the facts, the sort of basic facts that and principles upon which we want to proceed. And it establishes the steps that each of the city and town need to take. The city, obviously, with the special permit process, and the town with respect to amendment of the overlay zoning bylaw in the context of a particular identifiable proposed use. And I'll stop there because I think that's what it's all about, and I think it improves our position. It creates the framework for cooperation. And I think, I think it's fine for sending to the selectmen for their thoughts. And then I think it's also fine for other members of the board to look at it for their thoughts, and let's maybe put this on the agenda for the next meeting, as I said, as an excuse to not having had it done at the last meeting. Fortunately, people are not beating down the doors with proposals, so this
Right.
isn't red hot, but it is. But I think that what we have put out here gives us a framework that will allow us to approach this when we do have a proposal, because that's the time when the feet have to hit the floor and we have to be able to work together.
Yeah, I think that the it's going to go up for sale in April. I think I listened to Liz's comments to the Economic Development Committee when they met 3 weeks ago. And, I think she's aware that Meredith may very well have somebody in the wings that's hot to trot. So if we can have this squared away in April, I think it serves us well, because then they're not going to argue that we're trying to hold up the process. And I think that last sentence where we say we'll schedule a special town meeting, as expeditiously as we can if we see the right language and the right proposal, makes a lot of sense. And I think that gives them some of the assurance that we're going to try to move in that timely fashion. So I like it. But I got to talk to Kristen, so I'm happy to share this with her, and she can quietly throw in front of the select.
That'd be great.
I think my sense is that if we give it to Kristen, she could give it individually to select board members. I don't know as it needs to show up on their agenda right yet.
Just kind of we're looking for
Yeah.
comments.
And then as it gets into a
Um,
final stage,
One,
perhaps.
one,
it's
one
addressed.
question. Do we want to write it to say 2 representatives from the planning board of Berlin and, such representatives of the city to, because I think actually that would work better. People's thoughts on that? I think the selectmen might buy that.
Well, I think, so you're saying instead of to each appoint 2 representatives to liaise between the city and the town.
That the
As-
representatives from Berlin to be from the Berlin Planning Board, just adding something like that.
Because that's right, because if it's the select board, that's a quorum and it's an open meeting and it's a whole other layer
Exactly,
of.
exactly. So maybe add that to it before we present it to the selectmen, because then again, Tim, you can say, we're obviously going to consult with them
Right,
on a step-by-step basis, but this allows people who have experience with the property and experience with working with Marlboro to interface without the constraints of the zoning of the open meeting law.
right. And it doesn't necessarily mean that a select board member or Kristen can't attend, so.
Mhm.
Right, and it also then says that we're not trying to dump this on them.
Right.
Mhm.
Good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So please look at. I'm going to look at it myself. I may have a sentence or 2 I'd like to add over the the next couple of weeks, but please look at it. Get me any suggestions, and we can put it on the agenda for next meeting.
Well done.
Okay.
Yeah, and late
Awesome.
done, but there you go. Anyway, thank you guys.
Mhm.
Take care.
All right. I'm going to stick around for the big motion here.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I beat you, Tim.
Yeah, nice
Motion's
job.
made and seconded,
Oh.
and it's non-discussion. It's
Yeah,
non-discussable.
before you leave, Thomas,
Yeah,
happy birthday.
and to you.
Thank you.
Oh, happy birthday, both of you.
Yeah, happy birthday.
The I
Tomorrow.
would note that the original mall meeting was
Yep.
on our birthday as well.
1994, standing
Yeah.
on the town hall steps with Joel Bard saying, what a way to celebrate your birthday, right?
Yeah,
Wow.
As
There
the
you go.
Logan Express buses rolled through town.
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
bringing people to the town meeting. No
Yeah.
Zoom in, man.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
that was
Oh
great.
no, I mean the hours and hours we spent.
Yeah.
I will say that when I was doing it, I was thinking, okay, I'm working this one out. It's going to be somebody else's problem.
Oh, if you only
30
knew.
years from now when this fails, boy,
Yep.
as I said earlier about Mark Twain, it's hard to make predictions, especially about the future.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
We have a motion and a second. It's non-discussable. So at this time, I'll ask you to vote. Carolyn McDonald,
aye.
Timothy Wheeler,
Aye.
Jay Teach,
Aye.
birthday boy Thomas Andrew,
Aye.
and Tom Sanford, aye. Motion carries unanimous.